So it's 1:05. I will get us started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Diana Colin, and I am the Civic Engagement Program Officer with CCF. We are so thankful for you to join us. Well, we have 32 days left till Election Day. Good news from the registrar today, and you'll hear a little bit more about it later, but ballots are set to be mailed out starting today. So you should be receiving those. And it's perfect timing for you to be part of this training. I want to thank you all for joining us, and on behalf of CCF and our partners, the Liberty Hill Foundation, United Ways, and the Weingart Foundation, thank you for joining us to our final training in our civic engagement training series. If you missed any of our last trainings, you can go back to the California Community Foundation YouTube page, where all of our trainings are there. The trainings are on how nonprofits can engage in California ballot measures, on LA County civic desert research, and on the nuts and bolts of an electoral campaign. Today's training will give you all the information you need to know to cast a vote and help others cast a vote in LA County. Throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions, and we will make sure to get to them during the Q&A section at the end of all the presentations. So again, thank you for joining us, and I will hand it over to CCF's Vice President of Public Policy and Civic Engagement, Efrain Escobedo, for welcome and opening remarks.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you for the intro, but more importantly, thank you for all of your work in bringing these trainings along with all our partners to fruition. It's been such a welcome resource, I think, in LA County. So thank you for all the work and as well as to the team. I want to thank our continuous and sort of steadfast partners at the LA County Registrar Recorder County Clerk's Office. Thank you for continuing to partner with us in trying to make information around our elections process more accessible and making yourself available for partners to ask questions or raise different issues. So we greatly appreciate your continued partnership in that. Want to just say, hope everyone is holding up well, that you're enthused and still got a little bit of energy left in the tank to make this last 30-day sprint a memorable one. I think there is no debating how important the work that you all are doing is throughout the county. If the primary election results are an indication, there's a lot of work to do, particularly in our communities of color, and specifically in our Black and Latino communities, where we saw pretty low turnout. And I've heard from many of you how more information and education about how elections have changed in the new process is something that continues to come up on the part of voters. We certainly saw that in those results, where I believe, at least in the Latino community amongst registered voters, we saw a 15% turnout, which is more than a 10% difference between overall county turnout in this community's turnout. So your work, your efforts in the partnership between you, the registrar, and all of us is what hopefully will ensure that our democracy is including all the voices that it should, to be as transformative as it can be. And so it's my great pleasure today to introduce the Registrar Recorder County Clerk's Community and Voter Outreach Manager, Leah Kalanjian, who's going to be leading the presentation. And we thank you, Leah, for being here. As I've mentioned, more information and all of us understanding the new processes and ways that you all have made the election more accessible is so critical to making sure we get all our communities able to exercise their right to vote. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and welcome, Leah. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Efrain. As you stated, my name is Leah Kolanjian, and I'm the Community and Voter Outreach Manager. I'm here with my two leads, Jerome and Alva. They're individuals that are always out in the community doing civic engagement, outreach events, voter registration training, and they're a great resource to all of you. The Community and Voter Outreach program, the Community and Voter Outreach team is primarily responsible with going out in the community doing outreach events, but we also run the election observer program, which we'll get into more detail when we do our presentation. But today's presentation will briefly go over some key election dates, election information. It'll introduce you to our ballot marking device, different options of voting that are available to you, and different ways that you can either engage within the community, engage with registrar to see the transparency of the process and be more involved. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Elva Gomez, and she's going to be going into the voting rights portion of our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah, for the introduction. Nice to hear from you again, Efrain. Nice seeing you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for being part of this engagement for all the voters. I'm going to start the presentation, which we're going to talk about, like Leah mentioned, the key dates for this coming up election on November 8th. There's a lot of information. As Diana mentioned, October 6th, as today, vote by mails are being sent out to every voter in California. And then they're going to be started processing them in the 10th to the October 11th, which is the vote by mail location in State of Industry. So we're going to start the voter information and engagement. I'm going to start talking about voting rights in LA County, who can register to vote, who's eligible to vote. Especially nowadays, we have a large community in LA County. So who can register to vote? You have to be a US citizen. Also, you can register to vote if you are not currently serving a time in state or federal prison with a conviction of a felony. You have to be a California resident. You can still register to vote if you are not you're not mentally incompetent by the court law. If they say that you are competent, mentally incompetent, you still can register to vote on election day. And of course, you have to be 18 years in order to vote. I mean, we do pre-register students. We've been doing a lot of voter registrations at high school students, which we are pre-register them at 16, 17, but you do have to be 18 years and over to be able to vote on future elections. On November 2020, Proposition 17 restored the voting rights of people on parole. So now, which means that they are eligible to vote now. Not only that, but also the Californians incarcerated now in LA County Jail, which are serving a misdemeanor sentence, they can still register and vote. Because the jail time is a conditional probation, so they have the right to still vote. They also, the people that are in parole and probation, they can also register to vote if they're in mandatory supervision or released to community supervision also. So all these persons that are coming out from being incarcerated, they have the right to vote now, thank you to that Proposition 17 that restored their voting rights. The ones that cannot vote, it's the ones that are making time in a state or federal prison. So it's a little bit I hope this doesn't confuse some of you guys. If you're LA County Jail, a misdemeanor sentence, you can register to vote. It's also good for the ones that get released. They talk to the parole officers, and so they make sure they what kind of sentence they have, so they can see if they are eligible or not. Well, also, when they come out of prison, what we do once they re-register, they have to re-register so that we can update their information and restore the right for them to actually vote on election day. Next slide. We're going to take a little overlook of the election this November 8th. Here are the key dates. As I mentioned before, October 6th, we'll start mailing out the vote by mail to every registered voter in California. Also, we're going to open the dropout boxes to all the voters. October 24th, it's the deadline to register to vote. Don't worry if by any chance people miss the deadline, you don't have to worry about it. We have conditional voting, which you can do that in the vote centers that are going to be open. You register on the spot and they give your ballot on the spot as well. So you don't have to worry about it. I mean, we do try to enforce it to meet the deadline so that you can get your ballot through the mail, so you have enough time to review it and make your selections. But if the case is that you didn't make the deadline, you can always vote conditional voting at any vote center. October 29, it's when the first vote centers open, and November 5th, it's let me see. On October 29, we start opening the vote centers. November 5th, all the vote centers are open, and November 8th is election. Let's go to the next slide. And the reason why I mentioned 2 dates is because we have 11 days vote centers open and 4 days vote centers open. So 11 days before the election, 118 vote centers are open, and 4 days before the election, it gives a total of 522. So the total vote centers are open at 640. The ballot drop boxes are going to be 400. And they're going to be located in all LA County. If you're interested in knowing the location near you, you can always go to lavote.gov. We send a little mail for every voter and let them know which is the nearest drop-off boxes from their address. Also, we're going to be mailing out a vote center mailing to let them know which is a vote center closest to their area. So we have drop-off boxes, which the county mails out a little card letting them know which is the closest one, and the vote centers as well. You're not attached to go to any that is close to your house. You can be at a shopping center, you can be anywhere in LA County and still go and submit your ballot at any place. If you wish to vote in person, let's say nowadays we mail the vote by mail to all the voters. But if you choose to use the machine, the BMD, which is awesome, I love it, you can always drop off your ballot, surrender it with a clerk at the vote center, and use the machine. So you can never go wrong. Vote by mail is in case you run out of time, you're busy, work, family and stuff, and you didn't have the time to go and pick a line at the vote center. You can just drop it off at any, not only our ballot boxes, but you can also mail it to the post office as well. You have the time, you want to experience the BMD, feel more than welcome to just drop off to go to any vote center, surrender your vote by mail, and the clerk will reissue a new ballot for you to use the machine on the spot. Next slide. This is a little again of overview of the election. All voters can participate regardless of their party preference. So no matter what political party you are in this election, you're more than welcome to choose any of the candidates in the ballot. If there's a candidate in the ballot with a specific political party, it will be stated at the ballot. You don't have to choose the party that you are. You're more than welcome to choose any party of your choice. Again, and then talking about voter registration and the parties that you choose on each election. After this November election, you can change your political party. Always re-register to change it, and you should be good. You're not attached to remain on the same political party at all times. I'm going to leave this. We're going to pass this slide. It's a lot of, everybody has different governments, different candidates, different measures. So I don't want to talk about that right now because everybody's getting different governments and different measures on their ballot, depending on the restriction line. So thank you for the presentation. Now I'm going to pass it over to Leah. She's going to talk a little bit about voting during a pandemic, because we're still on the pandemic, and we just want to have everyone safe at the vote centers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elva. I see some questions are coming up in the chat, and I think we will address them at the end of our presentation. So if we could just keep going, and then at the end of it, we'll open the floors to some questions. So I'm going to be going over voting during a pandemic. So going forward, we are still going to be, all vote centers and all county facilities will be following state health mandates that are in effect. So currently, while there is no mask mandate, things can change for the November election. So our number one priority outside of keeping our voters safe is also to keep our election workers safe. So it's important for us, to everybody, to comply with these guidelines. So so this is just a general election snapshot. So just briefly to go over, as Elva mentioned, all registered voters will be receiving a vote by mail ballot. So this was a law that came into play in 2020, but LA County was exempt from that law up until 2024. But the reason we were provided this exemption is because in 2020, we were rolling out a completely new voting system. So we wanted to limit the number of major changes we hit the voters with per year. The other reason being cost. Being the largest jurisdiction in the nation, sending a vote by mail ballot to all 5.5 million registered voters definitely had an increased cost. This is something that, even though we had the exception due to the pandemic, we went ahead and implemented in 2020. So while we do have the COVID guidelines and everyone is getting a vote by mail ballot, we will continue to have in-person voting opportunities in which we can do safely. So one of the biggest obstacles we faced is to comply with the 6-foot social distancing requirements, which means we'd have to get very large facilities to host our vote centers. So similar to 2020, we will continue to uphold those strictly follow those state and county guidelines from public health and safety officials. So basically, voters have 3 methods to submit their vote by mail ballot. If you look at the 4th image on this PowerPoint, that is the drop boxes that Elva was referring to, that are going to be throughout LA County. So voters can return it through USPS. They can drop it off at one of these drop boxes, which are scattered throughout the county. And finally, you can drop it off at any vote center during the election period. So we have various ways for you to return these vote by mail ballots. And the next slide, we're going to go into a little bit of reminders regarding what to do when you're using the ballot drop boxes. So this is what the ballot drop boxes look like. They're very secure. No postage is required. Everything is done in dual control. Some reminders when you're submitting your ballot is you want to make sure that you place your voted ballot card inside the official return envelope. You want to make sure you seal the official return envelope and then sign and date the back of the official envelope. The reason we say that is because sometimes we get envelopes without a ballot inside of it. So just some key reminders there. Now we're going to go into the next slide. So a key resource we have for individuals that want to use our vote by mail option for voting is tracking your vote by mail ballot. So as you see here, we have something called Where's My Ballot, and you subscribe to it on california.ballottracks.net. This allows you to receive real-time notifications so you can see exactly where your ballot is at any given day. So this is a great feature. I tell every individual in any presentation to make note of it. If you're using the ballot, vote by mail ballot option, it's a great way for you to have peace of mind and know where your ballot is. The next slide is going to go into the ballot marking device that Elva mentioned. So this is the ballot marking device, also known as the Bmd Machine. This is what it looks like. It's fully accessible, it's secure, it has a paper ballot for auditing purposes in the future. It's an independent and private voting experience. It's not connected to the internet. And then it also has 19 languages. It has a display setting that you can adjust the size and contrast, and it has an audio headset if desired. So if you haven't used this machine, I highly encourage all individuals that are interested to go into a vote center and use the ballot marking device for the upcoming election. So if you are an individual that wants to utilize the in-person voting experience, but for example, you want to cast your ballot selections at home, or you're short on time, or you want the experience, but you want to do it during your lunch break when you're limited on time, we have something called Interactive Sample Ballot, also known as ISB. So the Interactive Sample Ballot is an easy to use web app, which guides you through making your votes and creating a poll pass that you can print or download and take with you to any vote center. So as you see in image 1, the individual is selecting is making their selections. Number 2, they have a downloaded or printed poll pass. And then on number 3, they come in and either scan their physical poll pass or scan the downloaded one on their phone. And that way they've all their selections have been made, and then they still get to vote in person. So this is a great tool that's on our lavote.gov website. So overcoming challenges. With any election, there's always challenges that we face to be able to recruit election workers, to find vote centers that we can work with. So we're going to be going into some of the challenges that registrar faces with any upcoming election. The next slide is going to be talking about the challenges we face with vote center recruitment. So to be able to recruit a vote center, it's kind of a big ask. It's a short period of time in the sense that we need it for a 2-week period. And sometimes these facilities are required or reserved for other community events. We also need large spaces, as we mentioned, because we do need to comply with the 6-foot guidelines. These vote centers or facilities that we use as vote centers have to have network and power requirements. They need to have ADA requirements. They need to meet ADA requirements. And then we really don't have an authority to take over the facility. They need to kind of grant that ability for us. And then we also face challenges in geographically isolated and underserved communities that don't really have large enough facilities for us to be able to host a vote center there. So these are some of the challenges we face when we're trying to recruit vote centers. Some of the hard to recruit vote centers we faced in the past have been, let's say, the 90026 area code, Carson, Santa Monica, Rancho Palos Verdes, Santa Clarita. So this is just a challenge a registrar faces every election to find, these are some of the hard to recruit areas. So the next challenge that we face is election worker recruitment. So as you know, it's again for a short period of time, either 4 or 11 days, and then it's a demanding schedule for election workers. They're working all day. Multilingual election workers are very hard and challenging to recruit. Some of the we constantly need assistance in languages such as Japanese, Korean, Khmer, Indonesian, Mongolian, Burmese. So it's hard to find individuals that are fluent in these languages to be able to assist. High school students are challenging to recruit for summer elections. And then again, as mentioned previously, it's hard to recruit in certain geographic locations. So this is a challenge we always faced. And so we're constantly mentioning and constantly passing out flyers and recruiting election workers throughout the election and even prior to it, so that we're better prepared. Another challenge that we face is combating misinformation. So some people are very not trusting of registrar. They're not trusting of using the vote by mail ballot. For example, some of the vote by mail ballots that we've heard is that ballots are often issued to the wrong address or the wrong person. Vote by mail is not safe or it's not private. Ballot drop boxes are not secure. Anyone can return a ballot that was issued to them. And then there's a widespread ballot collection activities to discard ballots. This is when we did a voter survey insight with the previous election, we actually found out that 90% of voters felt their ballot was safe and secure. But again, registrars constantly doing these presentations or hosting the election observer program, so individuals can come in and view the election process and understand that protocols are in place to keep your ballot safe. Again, we do have the ballot tracking tools available to all voters, such as Ballot Tracks, and everybody should use it. We encourage all voters to return their own ballot. We also work closely with law enforcement and investigative agencies when or if ballots are stolen. So we are doing everything on our end to make sure that everything is done according to protocol. And then we also have signature verification process, a ballot cure process. Our ballot drop boxes comply with all state regulations. There's daily pickups and inspections. Our boxes are locked and secured, and we everything is done in dual control. So these are just some of the things that protocols we have in place to make sure that everybody, all voters' ballots, especially vote by mail ballots, are secure. So the next portion of the presentation is about in voting in person myths. So people sometimes think that our ballot marking devices are easily hacked or manipulated. And just so you know, they are not easily hacked or manipulated. They are fully secure and they're not connected to the cloud, to internet, or anything. So they are not able to be hacked. Moreover, people think that the ballot marking devices tally election results, which is not true. Our ballot marking devices do not tally the election results. That is done at our tally operations center on election night. So they are just basically marking your ballot. Other misconceptions are voters can visit multiple locations and cast a ballot. That is also incorrect. The ballot marking device is such an amazing tool where when you voted, it already prompts something that says this voter has already voted, so it will not let you do a duplicate vote. Again, and voters can't verify their choices. With the ballot marking device, you can always go through and verify all of your choices. So these are some of the voting in person myths that we do our best to address and highlight so that individuals feel more secure with voting in person. So the next slide is about election tally and results myths. So as I mentioned previously, tally occurs at our vote centers. Election results are finalized on election night. And then people think that our tally system can be hacked to manipulate election results. So just to address this, tally takes place in a centralized location as our tally operations center. It is not done at vote centers. It is not done at a BMD. It is done only at our tally operations center. And while the tally does not even begin until 8 p.m. on election day, up until then, all of our ballots are being scanned, but they are not being tallied. So the first results report includes all early vote by mail ballots. The second result reports include early in-person ballots cast. And then the third and subsequent updates include election day ballots as they come in. After election day, there are still ballots that are being processed and verified and counted. For example, vote by mail ballots that are postmarked on election day will be accepted and received within 1 week of election day. And then all provisional and conditional ballots are processed in the election canvas. So election canvas period is a 30-day period that registrar has been given that we need to certify election results. So we are still processing ballots during that period. And then after 30 days, we need to certify it and send that to the Secretary of State. So just so you know, again, nothing is actually tallied until after election night. And if you want to come and see this process, we have the election observer program, which we will go into later, where you can actually come in during the election period, see how the ballots are being scanned. You can also come in on election night and see that nothing is actually being tallied until 8 p.m. So the next portion of the presentation is going to be on engaging voters. So a big portion of community voter outreach is working with community-based organizations and working with constituents in the community. And our primary goal is to engage voters. We do this through different presentations, such as the one we're doing ourselves today with our team. We do it with doing outreach events. We do it with our election observer program. So we have various programs that individuals in the community can come and partner with us and actually feel a part of the process. So the next slide goes into our voter education and outreach engagement goals. So our campaign goal and objective is always to drive the electorate to vote early and to continue to vote by mail. So we remind voters that they can vote right away by mail or at a ballot drop box, and we have early voting options as well. And our goal is to instill trust in the registrar. We want to reinforce that we are the official source of trusted election voting information and resources. And as I said, we do that by doing different presentations. We do that by addressing combating misinformation, by promoting our election observer program. So you can come in and actually view the transparency and the process that we have built into our election process. So our messaging basically encourages voters to stay on course and vote by mail or early. We position this as a definitive resource for official nonpartisan information on elections and voting. So we never provide any information on which way you should vote. We are nonpartisan. We only provide you with facts and information. We also provide voters with tools they need to make a plan to vote. So our phase one is we do vote by mail awareness and voter registration. This is where you get your sample ballot, you get your material in the mail. And then phase two is we highlight vote by mail registration deadlines and vote center logistics. With phase three, we have a countdown to election day. So during phase two and phase three is when we do our most outreach events. This is when, do phase one through phase two before the election deadline, voter registration deadline, is when outreach does the most events, because that's when we're out in the community, constantly reminding individuals to vote, doing voter registration drives so that individuals make it by our registration deadline. So this is just kind of our outreach strategy. If we go to the next slide, this is just some of the social media campaigns and posts that our media team has presented. If you ever go on Twitter or other social media, this is some of the things that you will see. I keep addressing the election observer program, and finally we got to that slide. This is a really exciting and amazing program that Registrar offers, because with our election observer program, individuals in the community come to our 3 facilities and view the election process during the election window. For instance, I mentioned the Tally Operations Center. You can come in and see how those ballots are being scanned. You can go to vote by mail and see how we actually scan the vote by mail ballots through, how the signature is verified. What happens if a signature doesn't meet the requirement? You can view that process. And then you can also come to our headquarters and see how the manual tally or our conditional and provisional ballots are accounted for. So the purpose of the Election Observer Program is to provide a means for public observation of the election process for departmental transparency. The second thing is we want to maintain the integrity of the election process. And then 3, we want to encourage participation and build voter confidence of the election process. So individuals who are interested in becoming an observer are encouraged to check our public observation schedule of events calendar on our lavote.gov to confirm operating hours. The reason I mentioned this is because, for example, sometimes we finish early, so we don't want you to come to our Tally Operations Center and our operations are done. Or sometimes vote by mail, we get a lot of ballots, which we always anticipate, and then we add hours. So if you look at the observation schedule, you can see an up-to-date information on where and what facilities are actually having activities you can observe. The premise is, if we're working, you have a legal right to observe. So if we are doing anything operational on our floors in our facilities regarding the election process, whether it's at Tally Operations, vote by mail facility, or our headquarters, you are entitled to come and observe. If you want to participate, observers are required to check in. They need to have a visitor badge visible when they're on their operational floor, or they are required to stay with an observer coordinator. And you're supposed to comply with all observational rules and guidelines. So we never want to disturb register staff. If you have questions, you can ask your observer coordinator, which would be one of the leads like Elva, Mike, or Jerome, and they will be happy to assist you. I highly encourage everybody, if you haven't done so, to come to one of our facilities and actually view the election observer process and how we process your ballots. Another thing we want to highlight in all presentations is how to become an election worker. So as I mentioned, this is the challenge for us. We always need multilingual workers. I want to highlight that election workers play an essential role in our elections and in our democracy. They are trusted community members who assist in-person voting experience throughout LA County. So they have a lot of responsibility to the voting experience. If you want to become an election worker, you are required to attend an election worker training. You assist with the opening and closing procedures of a vote centers. You assist voters throughout the day, and then you serve between 4 to 10 days. To be an election worker, some of the requirements are you need to provide proof against COVID-19. So you need to provide your vaccination. You need to be a U.S. citizen and registered to vote in California or have a legal permanent residence, and you need to be 18 years or older. If you want to be an election worker, I highly suggest you go to lavote.gov, and there is more information on that. We can also always send you the flyer, which you can find on the right-hand side of this presentation. This concludes my portion of the presentation, and then I'm gonna now pass it off to Jerome, who's one of our leads, and he will be highlighting the importance of developing community partnerships. Thank you so much.
Jerome, if you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Jerome?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. Let me just go back to my screen. All right, so I'm going to go over developing community partnership. As the outreach team, of course, we liaise with a bunch of different community organizations throughout the county. I'm just going to go over the tools we use, what we have been doing as the outreach team, and what you can do yourselves to spread the message of the RRCC and all the information that we try to give the public about the election. So developing a community partnership. So as a trusted messenger, we rely on you to connect and engage with your community. In order to do this, we try to give the organizations the tools necessary to fulfill this part. A couple days ago, we just sent out our media toolkit, which includes links to information about the upcoming election, pre-made posts that you could put on your social media, as well as links to some of our flyers on the lavote.gov website. They're also offered in several languages. So if your community speaks one of the mandated 19 languages, you could post your social media in those languages. We would hope that you would assist us with vote center and election worker recruitment. As Leah mentioned before, there are some hard to reach areas that we've been trying to get to, such as like Carson or Ranchos Palos Verdes. So as community organizations in those areas, if you know any venues or any members that you have that would like to join the electoral process, we would hope you would reach out to us with that information. Host and serve as mobile or flex vote centers. So these are for places that may be harder to reach, like, you know, the edge of the county or some senior living facilities. Again, as the community organizations in your area, you would be the best ones with the knowledge of what facilities are available in your area that we could supply that to. To amplify our messaging and combat dis and misinformation. So of course, as Leah mentioned earlier, we want to instill trust into the registrar. We want to be the official source for all election information. And we've been doing this by actually responding to social media posts. So I don't know if some of you noticed, but the registrar recorder will sometimes respond to like false statements that are made on like Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So we've been doing that. As the community partner in this situation, we hope you would at least do the same. So we've had organizations come to the Observer program just to see what it's really like. And so that way, if they ever get questions from their own community about the misinformation that they've been hearing, you as the community organization can clear that up for them. Collaborate on in-person or virtual outreach opportunities, like what we're doing right now. CCF has given the RRCC opportunity to reach out to the myriad of community organizations that they partner with in order to get this information and message out to them. And of course, to strengthen this partnership, we always want to hear concerns, challenges, or fears you hear in the community. So as the in-between between your direct community and the RRCC, it can be on you to relay those concerns from your members to us directly, and then it can be on us to address those concerns. We also created a community partner survey. I think we're still developing that link, so we don't quite have that yet. So, but once we get that, we'll forward it to you, or if any of you want to reach out to us here at our outreach inbox, you could do that as well, and then we could supply that. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, we have the mobiles voting program, Vote Center Recruitment. These are some of the email addresses you guys can refer to if you have any venues you want to offer, any community members that want to volunteer and be a part of the electoral process. You can contact these email addresses right here. And that's it.
Thank you, Jerome. And we have a couple of questions queued up. And I think Leah, you will be the one answering this, so I can go ahead and just read them out loud. First question is there an electronic sample ballot? The interactive tool doesn't have a ballot loaded yet. I haven't received my physical ballot and wanted to look at it. Thank you.
I was trying to unmute. So the question was that they haven't received their interactive sample ballot and they wanted to see an image of it, an electronic one.
Right.
I would have to double check on that, but have they recently moved or anything? Has the individual that hasn't received it recently moved?
I'm not sure, and
I don't believe we have an electronic one, but I can double check. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome or Elva. We only have it by mail, correct?
Yeah, the interactive sample ballot, Dana, it will generate a QR code for them to use at the vote center with the BMD. So that's only accelerates and have them ready with all their answers. They're able to answer all the questions, to submit, make all the selections for their ballot online, and then after they I've never done it before, so maybe after they submit it or click OK, it will generate a QR code, and that it's either they can print it out or they can save it on their phone and bring it to the vote center and scan it on the BMD, and it will show all the selections. And at that time, they can still, if they want and make any changes, they can still make those changes at the vote center. But it would not print it out. It's not going to print it out.
Yeah.
The only sample ballot they get is on the mail, the ones that the RCC sent to them.
Yeah, it's in the mailer that they receive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Eva. The next question is there any way to register via the DMV process without having your phone number made public?
Honestly, we don't know as far as how the DMV does it, but if they want to not make their phone number public, we would just suggest registering online with lavote.gov. And I don't believe we asked them for their phone number. We asked them for their address and mailing address, which is things you need to be able to develop to determine your precinct. So if that's a concern, just use our website and you will avoid that issue.
Yeah, the phone number is an option. They don't have to put it.
Yeah.
Yep. And is there a deadline to apply to become an election worker?
There is no deadline. I know that the vote centers are being staffed now, but there is a need. So there is no hard set deadline. But if you do want to be an election worker, I would say sooner than later, just so we can make sure that you do the training orientation before the election period starts. But there is no hard set deadline that you can apply after this date.
Okay.
If anybody wants the election worker flyer, I can have one of the team members also send it to you guys and you guys can distribute it.
Yes, so we will be sending a post-training email with links to all of the resources, that flyer and this recording.
Okay.
We did get note that the Zoom link or folks were having trouble with the Zoom link. So we'll make sure the recording is sent out.
Okay.
Again, this is the final training in a series of civic engagement training workshops that were set to help prepare organizations and individuals get ready for the November 2022 election. If you missed any of those trainings, you can go back to the California Community Foundation YouTube page when you can learn about how nonprofits can engage in ballot measures on civic deserts in LA County and the nuts and bolts of an electoral campaign. With that, I want to thank all of the participants today and all of the speakers. Thank you all for the work you do to ensure a full and inclusive democracy in LA County. And we will see you all at the finish line November 8th. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you for allowing us to
Thank
be
you,
here.
Diana.
We really appreciate it. I'll go ahead and send you the toolkit right now that you can include in your email. Thank you so
Have a good
much.
afternoon, everyone.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.